Hello, cousins. Welcome to SASS Mass, our spirituality and support symposium. Think morning witchy chats around a warm campfire. The recording has started, and by participating in SASS, you agree to read and accept the terms of engagement, which I'll post in the chat. We ask that you mute during the recording for clarity during the meeting and for the afterplay. We'll now get started with a few announcements. Jen Marie is with us today, but is nursing a headache. So I will share the announcements that I know of. So over the next couple of weeks, it's going to be a little touch and go with the big move and the convergence and some changes going on. So we thank you for your patience during all that transition and keep an eye on the app. Maria's really, really good about sharing updates and changes in there. There's going to be a lot of new workshops, content, and resources coming in October. So after everything settles down after September, you'll start to see more of that rolling in. Another cool announcement is that they're going to be opening SASS Masses starting October 6th. To the courtyard so that people who are not enrolled in foundations will be able to join and check it out once a month. So tell your friends and pass that word along. So we should be seeing some new faces in during that. And so unless anybody else has any announcements, I'm going to open it up. Karen, did you have a subject or something you needed to add to the announcements?
Not announcements to start it off.
Oh, great. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, great. Let me put my hand down so I don't forget. Okay, so context. Jen-Marie, you've been talking a lot about finding safety, security, stability, and even added authority from within ourselves and how important that is. And I've been working on that on my own, and I'm probably like 75, 80% within myself, but there's still stuff that I need to bring in. Which is fine, work in progress, right? My journey in this human experience is that I didn't realize anything about my life. I wasn't aware until I was about 45, 46. And I was in a really closed off space. And then everything started to open up, starting to realize that what my mom was really like and what my husband was really like at the time. And so there was a very long time of my life that I did not feel safe, secure, or stable, starting from infancy. Just didn't know it, right? And so with the question, I know, but I've been working on it really hard, and we are safe and secure now. We even moved recently just to be safe and secure, and which was good. It was all good choices, and I do feel good about things now. But with the prompt yesterday, and I was able to make it to one sacred space and like a part of another. So I knew this was really impactful to me, but I couldn't get the words together. I couldn't figure out what the real problem was. Is it belief in myself? Is it faith in myself? Is it going back to the safety and security? Like, what, and I never did speak up in sacred space because I didn't know what to say. And I was kind of prepared to like work it through on the call, but other people had stuff and we just didn't connect. So I didn't. And then all last night and all through the night, I like, what is it? What is it? What is holding me back? And I feel like it's my mom. I have, well, like most of us, I have a complicated relationship. She never created a safe space or secure space there was never any stability, blah blah blah. But she was also a channel. She was a very invested in the spiritual world, but she also had absolutely no support from anyone else. So I think it's been called an echo chamber, where her thoughts about who she is and her own inherent narcissism just built it up to where she took it to places that are just self-serving. And I never ever wanted to be like her. I didn't want any of her narcissism. I didn't want any of her channeling. I didn't want any of her gifts. But I had gifts of my own. And so it was just my intuition. And I knew my intuition was good and I was fine. And it was in a nice contained spot. And the faith that I'm struggling having within me is tied to my gifts. And I think my um my resistance to those gifts is my tying to this. I'm not going to be like her. And didn't get any answers all night. I tried meditation this morning. um and what I got was there's a physical sensation when I'm in touch with, generally you call it the veil, and it feels like kind of like goosebumps, but like head to toe. It's not really goosebumps, but it's like that feeling. And so I knew I was there, I knew I was present, and I feel safe there. Um, but nothing came through because, like, I'm worried and I'm thinking and I'm anxious, and, and my intelligence is getting in the way. And I'm like, I give up. So I just went downstairs, got something to drink. And I came upstairs and I just sat down and I was like, I just don't get it. What's my problem? Oh, well, I don't feel safe. Okay, full circle. We're back to the safe, secure, stability, authority questions. Okay. But what I'm, so that's all the context to my question. I've, in my mind, I feel safe and I am secure. So security is about my physical environment, and safety is about how I feel inside. And so I don't actually know what that means. So my question, my thing today is asking all of you, what does being safe or feeling safe mean to you? And of course, open to weigh-ins. I'm just saying that out loud because I'm asking a question for everyone to respond. Because I don't know what being safe means. I don't think. And sorry if there's in the chat. I haven't been looking. No, okay. Maybe people are thinking.
Karen, I love how you framed that question and gave the background. I thought that was really helpful. Um, as a great question. Renee, you can go ahead.
There, I was. Oh, I'm on my phone. Hi Karen. How are you? I think safety is a luxury, right? And I mean, some people are lucky that sorry, that if they have supportive parents and and that's a luxury to grow up with. I was fortunate enough to do that, and it does, having the feeling that you can fall back on, like there's always going to be someone there for you to catch you, support you. um it um it makes life easier. It really does. But what I was going to say is, I feel like support, I feel like this group is is that in that, and I think you have to have support to feel confident, and especially in trying new things. And I think that just knowing that there are people in this group that are just amazing resources that genuinely love you, and they care, and they want what's best for you. I mean, I would hope that um you embrace that. I think you have. I mean, I think you do. I think it's just that if you feel like you haven't had it in your life and it's something new, sometimes it's hard to trust it. But um I think support is just being allowed to just be yourself completely. And I think this is a good place for that. I don't know if that's helpful at all, but
I'm writing it all down
oh
because I'm writing, because then I can work on it later, right? Like
sure, of
not in my
course
to write it down, and then I can writing it means it's in my brain. If I just listen, I don't always it doesn't always get caught
oh
in the cells.
I totally understand. I mean, sometimes I understand that too. Like, you have to get all your senses engaged to like make it stick, kind of. But yeah, I mean, support is, it's something some of us take for granted, and just this conversation is making me realize that I've kind of taken it for granted, and I need to let the people that I love that support me know how much I appreciate it. So but Karen, I think honestly, like, I think everybody here is here for you, really,
Thank you.
and this place is all about support. Like,
It's
that's
definitely the first community I've ever been in. I can safely say that. But this is the first community I've ever been in.
yeah,
My friends, but they're individuals who are all over the country. So and I feel tied to them, but it's not the same.
yeah, yeah. And I just lost whatever I was gonna say, but yeah, I see Wit's got her hand raised. So, but Karen, yes, it's I think you can uh I I think I think that this group is something so special and so unique and so different, um that it's just it's magic. It is magical. So I'm gonna turn it over to Wit.
Hello, Karen.
Hello.
So let's see if I can remember what I was going to say, because I lost it. I had it and then I lost it. It'll come back here in a second.
Cool.
I think there's like different aspects that I look at with safety. And, a big piece of it that I have come to realize is that my safety, and when I feel the most safe, is when I have that like confidence in myself that no matter what happens, I am going to do the best that I can for me, Now that doesn't negate some like physical safety things, of course, like,
Yeah.
but, even in that, I think about of like, am I able to get back to a safe space? Like, I'm not going to always be in a safe space, but that safety really comes from like that assurance in myself of, no matter what happens, I will be able to get through it, kind of thing, Um, and, it used to be that my safety was based on, to do that was, I have control of every little thing in my life. I'm going to control it. And if I control it and I'm the one who's like manning everything, then
Right.
everything will be fine, right? That's how I create safety for myself.
Yeah.
But letting go of that control is very freeing. And I'm not going to say that I've let go of it completely yet. That's a work in progress for years that's going to be going,
Yeah.
But really just kind of sitting back and saying, okay, what steps I'm going to have the confidence that I'm going to know what steps I need to take next in the moment. I don't need to know about what are the 5 steps in front of me that I need to take. I just need to know the one in front of me,
Yeah, the next best thing.
Yeah. Yeah, like what do I need to do next, And it's not that my life is going to be easy all the time. It's not going to be, go the way that I think it should go or the way that I want it to go. It's going to go the way that it needs to go to ensure that I am able to make those decisions, right? Because sometimes I have to go through something that is not comfortable, that can be scary to get to the point that I'm like, oh, now I have the knowledge to know what way to go, Um, and I think part of that too is that support is so intertwined with it of um I was just having this conversation with somebody else about like um the only way that I get that support is by being everything to everyone and being the person who provides all the support and taking care of everyone, like that people pleaser, um that I think all of us have, that is in this group, to some extent. We all are people pleasers, right?
Yeah.
And living our lives of like not really having that support in place, of like that kind of unconditional love from a group of people, that we don't have to agree on the way that we see things. We don't have to agree on every little thing that's going on, and around us and how we do things to get support and to provide support to each other, And so that is still something I, actively have to wrap my head around, of like unconditional support and, and accountability too. Like, y'all going to hold me accountable to what I've said and what I want, and what I've asked. And so like having that, it's hard to believe in that. It's hard to trust in that, because up until now, I've had, 35 years of the only time that I got support was when I was supporting everybody else. And when I stopped supporting people, they stopped supporting me.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how that works?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And so like not knowing what true community is, but now knowing what true community is, and like being able to trust in it, because the community has shown up for me multiple times,
Your comments totally hit home. And not last month, but I think the month before, kind of bleeding into last month, I guess, I was really working on the analogy that the bird does not trust the branch, it trusts its wings.
Mm.
And really, really worked a lot on that. And I was actually able to let go of a lot of the control that I had, that I was trying to like really hold on to, because I was trying to hold the branch to me. Like I was trying to hold the branch onto the tree. I was trying to hold the branch onto me. And I was like, that's not the point. The point is having faith in me. And I felt like I'd made a lot of progress on that. But in looking back over the last week, I was working on something in my past that a betrayal that I had been unable to kind of find peace with, let go of, forget, whatever term you want to use. I had, and it was stopping me from moving forward in areas of connection, not like person to person, not like community, but like in a love interest. And so I was working on that, and all of a sudden, kind of the answer came, as it usually does. And then I was really like digging into that time in my life and really rethinking its impact on me, right? And putting it in a different, looking back on it differently. And so that I could let go of the betrayal, and I have let go of the betrayal. But now I realize going back there, it's like quicksand. It's tar. It's tar. Like I now am walking around with tar. and and so I don't feel safe because I don't know, brought that back with me. I'm still stuck in it. It's still clinging to me. I don't know, whatever term you want to use. And that's one piece of the puzzle. I'll say it that way. I don't think it's the whole thing, but it's definitely been, because it wore me down. It was very hard to have to go back there and relook at everything.
Yeah. And I think, Karen, like that's a hard thing that we have to do, is when we have to go look at our history, you know, our traumas. And then working through all of that, it feels like we take steps back sometimes. And sometimes we might. And that's okay as well, too, to like take some of those steps back, because sometimes you need those steps back to be able to see the bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to like find those points that are like, something's still bugging me here. Let me see what it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think accepting that as well, too, of like, yeah, I mean, I don't know how many times I feel like, and I'm sure there's a lot of, if I ask, hey, however many people, if you felt this before, showed with a like hearts or something of, we have time periods. How many people have had time periods where they're like, well, I'm just failing at being a witch and I'm not doing anything right and I'm not making progress and I feel like I'm falling back and I'm doing all, you know, like I'm not doing this. I should be doing it this way. I should be doing it that way. We all love to shit on ourselves, you know? So, like, knowing that we're going to go through those times and learning how to like accept and sit in that of like, okay, I am going through a time where I feel like I have tar on me. Feel like I'm going back. I feel like I'm doing, you know, all these things, and using that time to kind of, and I think you are, Karen, like you're using this time to really like analyze ish, but in a good way analyze, not like all in your mind of like, you
Yeah.
know, just trying to analyze yourself out of feeling that way, but like to really look at your feelings and to really like heal from that trauma and from that experience so that you can move forward. And
Yeah.
so I'm saying all of that to say, stop beating yourself up for it, because you're actually doing the goddamn thing and you're doing great.
I don't think I'm beating myself up, but I just don't know if I know what safe means. But going back to my favorite analogy of the bird, that's
Mm-hmm. I really like that analogy too. I think I'm gonna steal that.
it's not mine. We'll go ahead. All right. Well, if anybody else has a way in, happy to hear it.
Yep.
Otherwise,
Moving to Karen, to the other Karen now.
yeah, on to the next.
Hi, Karen. I'm Karen. Let the cultural memes begin.
You know, I'm going to change my name to Karina. I just have to fill out the form. not because of the cultural problems. I've never really liked my name, but yeah, I'm actually going to change it to Karina Evergreen. But anyway.
Right. No, I find humor in it, because I'm sure you
Me
have
too.
people, you know, it's like, what do you think of all the Karen memes? I just change it to Becky, you know.
Yeah. I used to we lived in Seattle, and it was a very people of color environment. So I was meeting a lot of other moms, etc., and that were Black. And they're like, "Oh, what's your name?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm Karen. I'm a white woman named Karen."
I use that.
I used to just laugh. I was like,
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to hear your voice even more. And I'm glad you decided to wait to SASS today to use your voice, because I missed the sacred space you were at yesterday. Actually, I was there, but yeah. But I'm glad, and I can't wait to hear more of your voice as the months progress and as you learn more about yourself and you deconstruct and both everything that you've ever been taught and everything that you feel about yourself.
Thanks, Karen.
While you were talking, it made me think because I'm getting ready to have a garage sale. Oh, yeah. So last year, my father passed, and I'm having to go through all kinds of stuff.
Oof.
Very triggering. 54 years worth of memories, 90 years for him, and all of it. And they all evoke different emotions and feelings. And as I'm going through all of it, I'm getting dust all over me, to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was
I
like
just,
very lucky that I was, adopted into a physically safe. Physical abuse was not an issue. Mental, yeah, the whole tap dance done in there. So, while you're going through it, while I'm going through everything, my house is a fucking mess. I got piles everywhere for everything as I sort through all of the stuff. And I'm kind of, while you were talking, it made me think the same way. That it feels like my house is a fucking mess right now. I got shit all over everywhere. I got shit all over me. But the truth of the matter is, while I'm going through this, I'm healing.
mhm.
I'm getting my shit organized, probably more organized than I've ever been. But it looks like shit. If you walked into my house, you'd think, did you just move in or you moving out? What the hell you got going on here, lady? But I know what's going on. I'm taking apart everything that's in my life right now. And it's like you're saying, it's like as you're going through and you have to go back and look at these past relationships as some of these physical items are bringing up for me, and they are bringing up different emotions. I mean, I've got shit from here in my high school yearbooks. That was last week, reading people crying over the ones that are dead, the ones that bullied me, the ones that I bullied, all the stuff that you go through. It may look and it feel like your house is a mess. Trust that your wings are going to get you through this mess. It feels like it's a mess. The witches in here, they've seen me cry and trying to figure this out and deconstructing and trying to find our real selves. That's what foundations. That's what is more safe than being secure on a firm foundation. There's nothing more safe than that. And deconstructing everything, our beliefs about ourselves, the beliefs about society, our poor parenting, so it's deconstructing all of that. And I hope that helps, and that knowing that a foundation is a safe place to start anywhere. And I mean, when you're building, because you're rebuilding yourself, you're taking a true look at yourself, taking it all apart and rebuilding, and to give yourself strength. And you have found the foundation to do it. I'm so glad you're here. Much love, cousin. That's all I got.
Thank you so much.
I I'm not going to be able to tell you exactly what safety and security means to me because it's changed so much and I still have so much work to do on it, that there's no like clear definition for me. But one word that I hear keep coming up as people speak is trust. And how, aligned trust and safety are together for me. And throughout my whole life, and I also have been very blessed in most situations to be really safe. No, I'll take a look at that because that's not entirely true. So scratch that one. But I have, been predominantly safe in the end. We'll say it that way, right? And I think safety comes for me, that feeling of trusting that, knowing that things are happening for me, you know, uh, because I can't think of any situations in my life, even the most terrible of situations, the most fearful, unsafe situations, that haven't been for me in the end, eventually. I've been lucky in that way. And I recognize my privilege in that. Um, but in regards to things from the past keep coming up, I bang my head about that too. I have some that just keep coming up and just keep coming up. And that is because there is more or different kind of work for me to do in that situation. Like if it all came up and I worked through every uh, lesson and feeling and thought pattern and everything that I had to get through in certain situations, I would fall apart completely. I wouldn't be able to move forward, right? I could only access little bits of healing in certain situations at a time. And then I feel like when they resurface that I might be ready to do a little more, Now I can take a little bit more of a look now that I've been able to work through and heal little bits of it. I have a breakup from 20 years ago that I'm like, man, am I still here? Like, you gotta be kidding me. But every single time that it resurfaces and I do more work with it, heal a little bit more, which allows me to look at it a little bit more the next time that it comes up. So it is definitely a process, but I love how the word trust keeps coming up, and I feel like for me that's a huge piece of safety and security. So I'm going to mute now and pass it along to Jen Marie.
That makes sense. Thank you.
I'm gonna try to communicate this, guys, but I have a hard time finding words when I have a headache. But I feel like I need to clarify something. I also feel like I need to give a little context. And that context is going to be talking about my life. So there's this like trigger warning. Brace yourselves, witches. As someone who has experienced childhood domestic violence, adult domestic violence, home invasion trauma, SA, torture, all of the things, my relationship with safety and security and stability has been literally like a lifelong journey. And I, like, for a long time, I like rooted my sense of safety and security and stability in like being surrounded by people all the time, right? Never being alone. And I learned and worked through that. But because of my experiences, and I know this comes from kind of a morbid place, but I know better than from my personal experience that my safety and security doesn't come from a door being locked. My safety and security doesn't come from being around like people that I trust. My safety and security doesn't come from those places. I learned that my safety and security comes from my relationship with my life, my relationship with my practice, right? What do I believe sincerely about my life? And a little bit of what Stephanie touched on and what I like talk about pretty openly, this the shift in perspectives, right? Knowing sincerely, believing that my guides aren't going to let anything through that isn't meant for me in some way. And a lot of people tend to like twist that into the belief that like all of the, what would be labeled as like horrible things that I've experienced in my life is somehow like I was meant to experience all of those things. Like it's not coming from that place. It's coming from a place of, yes, I experienced those things, and I can absolutely sincerely say that and believe that uh, my sense of safety and security does not come from my ability to control my environment, because that's fucking impossible. It doesn't come from my ability to foresee something happening, because that's fucking impossible too. It doesn't come from my ability to like know what's coming or what's going to happen, because we don't know. We don't know. It comes from my relationship with my life, my belief in what the fuck is going on, right? Which is this like constant journey and constant evolution. But yeah, I kind of dropped off my train of thought there. Does that distinction make sense? Am I making sense, guys?
It actually takes oops, excuse me, it actually takes me full circle, because what it's the trust in myself and the belief in myself and the belief in my gifts, that I'm having trouble embracing, fully letting through, because I don't feel safe. And I don't know how to I don't know how to navigate that web.
So, I don't believe that my safety and security comes from within me. Like it doesn't come from like me. Again, it comes from my relationship, what I understand to be like who I am, what I'm here to do, my path, my journey. That's where my sense of safety and security comes from, right? In knowing who I am. That's why it's so important to really like turn that lens inward and get to know who you are, and to recognize where your sense of like where your authority comes from, or your sense of authority is, and your understanding of the way that the world works. Does that make sense? I don't believe that it comes like necessarily from me, because my understanding of what me is oh my god, I'm dipping a little further back.
Well,
Uh
headache. I don't want to overstress you.
well, it's not like the overstress thing. It's like I'm opening up this like whole other can of worms. It's like where's your how much or how deeply do you believe in oneness, right?
I'm
And so,
making progress.
right, and your relationship with like me and I changes the deeper you go into that like journey of oneness or embracing oneness. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so like when I say me, it means something different than like someone else saying me, right? This
No,
is where
agree.
I'm having a hard time finding words, right?
No, I get it. I hear you actually really well.
Right.
I think a quick summary or check for understanding is your belief, your trust, using Stephanie's words, and Karen's words. The trust is the safety. The trust, the belief is the safety.
Right. I
That's
truly don't believe I can make a wrong decision. I truly don't believe that I can go off course or off my path. I truly and sincerely, that is my relationship with my life. So I don't have an insecurity about what I'm experiencing, because I truly and sincerely believe that I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing because I need to be experiencing it right now. And my relationship with my life is, my goal is to engage with whatever I'm experiencing in this moment in a way that I'm proud of. I'm clumsy sometimes, but usually that clumsiness comes from me not supporting my system in some way. I'm overstimulated, so I am not able to engage again in a way that I'm proud of. Does that make sense?
Mhm. I'm learning that too.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to jump down.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everybody's input. It's really helping me a lot. Like a lot. Like a lot.
Hi, can I weigh in? I'm driving, so I can't see hands. If I'm heading, I will wait.
No, go for it, Maria.
Okay, thanks. Hi, and sorry I'm late, so sorry if it's like repeating and I didn't hear what some of others said, but I just wanted to say that I understand the frustration in looking for answers, and like because it's like we all have different truths and answers like for ourselves. So just kind of holding space that like when we are getting like this ping to dig deeper to search for something, and then it's like a multi-layered getting into like deeper mysteries, really like getting into the inner work, and it looks like different for everybody. But I just like wanted to honor that it can also be like frustrating when you're like looking for answers and nobody can tell you the answer. And usually that means that it's like one of those things where you'll get like today, you get breadcrumbs of different things that kind of give you pings and different rabbit holes to go down. And then ultimately it's like digging into it and how safe like you feel of doing it, right? Like my relationship with, there was a time specifically like with the gifting of interacting with spirits, there was a time that I was afraid. And what I ended up doing, I deconstructed what I actually experienced versus the messages other people outside of myself were telling me, maybe some religion thrown in there, and my relationship with fear itself. And in order for me, and this is where it's like you dip your toe in, because this isn't like immersion therapy, right? Like you do what's comfortable for you, right? And this is your own way. So I had to feel fear to figure out what my relationship was. Even if I wasn't like pinpointed on the scenario, I did have to let myself feel it and establish a relationship with it without attaching morality to it. So like not attaching the good and bad, but just taking it for what it is. And once I allowed myself to feel fear, I was in a safe place. I was in my home. I felt safe to feel fear, like we do in the shutter exercise, you know, is like one tool. I then established what was actually real for me and what I call like Hollywood, which the Hollywood category is like everything on television, religion, and no offense like for those religious people, but that's just for what it is for me. It's like the stories, because like religion for me is a myth story. So I don't know if that's helpful, but that's maybe just like one way to kind of like approach it. It's really about like building your relationship. And the reason why foundations is 12 months is because it takes that long or more. It could take like several years, you know, depending on how much you dig in, and like, you know, how much you want to intentionally work with it, how often you want to do that, and that's really your choice. So I hope that was helpful. That was my 2 cents. I'm sorry if it was repeating. Thank you for letting me share that.
It wasn't repeating, and I really appreciate it. And there is a fear component, but it's yeah, it's something that yeah, there's probably some tar there from my mom too. There's tar from that relationship, and there's yeah, time to take a shower, shall we say. Thank you so much.
Go ahead, Renee.
This is a little change of subject, but I started reading a book last night, and just in the very beginning and like in the intro, um it was it was basically saying like witchcraft is scary and bad stuff can happen, and you need this book if you're gonna, you know, do any of the things. And it's just, I feel like since I've been with Bright and Dark, like that, I'm just like, yeah, why would I choose that? You know, like when I, you know, I don't know. It's just interesting to me because I think there is still so much like fear-based, dominion-based magic is the kind of almost like a baseline, you know, um that I'm just again thankful I found this group first. And that's all.
I'm gonna jump in actually because I agree with that, Renee. Like before I found Bright and Dark, and I have always done witchy things and I've always been interested in it. But given my very strict religious upbringing, all the movies in the 80s of the satanic panic and all that sort of thing, you know, instilled a lot of fear in me. And so every time I tried on my own to, set up a steady practice or tap into a gift or something, that fear always got in the way. And until I found this group, uh, and was able to understand that social conditioning and the stories that I've been told, as which for me, I've discovered are completely off base and untrue. I wasn't able to fully practice or tap into my gifts in that way.
I feel exactly the same, Stephanie. You know,
Yeah.
like I feel like it's been like in my life, my whole life, but I was always afraid and made to feel afraid. And I mean, and then there's part of the danger rush too that's like kind of a thrill, you know, like it's kind of exciting, and it's like uh ghost hunting, right? Like it's just, you know, like there's just something um I don't know, something about us that wants to be a little bit scared. Or used to, you know, like now I feel like I'm to the point where I'm like, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was gonna say I had kind of the same experience. Stephanie, I'm sorry. I feel
Oh
like
no,
I
no, that's fine. I'm
interrupted
done.
you.
I'm totally done. That was what I had to say. Your timing was perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, Karen, go ahead.
I kind of lost it, but we're just going to roll with it and go. I've been doing this a real long time. You know, it's like, so I mean, raised Catholic, don't know. I mean, I don't, yes, Catholic, heavily indoctrination, but as far as I've just, for me, going to a Baptist church with a 6-hour long service is much more traumatic for those that had to go through that on the regular than me being put through fear of hellfire and eternal damnation from the priest, just I mean, and how you deconstructing from religion. And just in the fears and stuff that we've all, that we were indoctrinated with. That the personal side of it, or I mean the spiritual side of it, the fears that we're all you take apart. But the other very real fear is, when I first started doing this, I've had meetings in HR because of the pentacle that I was wearing, because of all the movies and stuff that indoctrinated others. And I mean, then there were those the wannabes because it looked good in the movie. But the reality is, and still today, when we have preachers like Greg Locke, or, I'm sure if you're on TikTok, he's some witches brought him up. And even TikTok, witch talk itself is kind of like, some of them witches be tripping. They're, not even my brand of witchcraft. There's all kinds of different flavors of witchcraft. We're all on our own path and journey to deconstruct the religious bullshit that they spoon fed us and all the warnings that they used to tell us. And it was I'm thinking of my grandfather right now, because he used to tell me there was a fence that had creeks on the other side of it, and I like to explore. And I love going back in there and finding bugs and snakes and everything else. And they didn't want me to go in there because there were copperheads, and they'd seen them there were lots of snakes back there. So my grandfather told me the devil lives back there, literally. The thing is, I got older, he used to tease me and told me he was to throw me over the fence to the devil. It was all in tickles and get laughter. It wasn't. So I guess I never really had that whole, I mean, the indoctrination of the devil gonna get you was kind of a lighthearted twist was put into it, thanks to my grandfather. But fearing, like I said, the hellfire and eternal, if you turn against that, and it's deconstructing, what are you afraid of? And I mean, those are questions we all ask ourselves. And is it real? But then in questioning that, you have to question, if it isn't real, is my own power real? I can't think of the quote that Jen Marie uses from A Course in Miracles very often. She uses it there. Hey, boom! Course in Miracles, that is which is not real, does not threaten us, that is which unreal. And if you have the spoons or the strength to finish it, Jen Marie, chime in. But deconstructing all of that, if it's not real, then it can't hurt me. But how real is my own power? What I'm fixing to undertake here is probably one of the most powerful things I've ever done as a witch. And I am doubting the fuck out of myself. I have to save my house. And this is the first sanctuary. I will publicly put this out here. This is the first witchy sanctuary that is available to Bright and Dark members as well as other witches. And to grow and to become many other things. But am I strong enough? Am I powerful enough? Because I feel like part of me is wishing to do magic to win the Powerball, because that's like the big ask here, And can I really, but in reality, it's only $200,000, if that. And I think there's people that lost that much in the Chinese stock market this morning. It's not that big of an ask. How, trusting myself, believing in myself, it's all tied in there. And I am just rambling at this point to share that we all have doubts. I don't want to say we all, I have doubts. Even within my own powers, my own magic, and even my own mental health sometimes, depending on stuff that what comes up. But we're all here just to figure it out together. And having you guys here just to brain rattle off stuff with, and I hope it helps because you guys sure help me, whether you know it or not, with just different things and brain food that you drop here for each other. Thank you. It's in the quote that I was referring to from, now my mind's just A Course in Miracles. Anyway, Maria, take it away.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to say too, like, the word real is hard as a witch, like, because we have one foot in this world, one foot in like spirit land, or whatever you call it, and so when you're on the veil, like, what is real? And so that's where, like, it's kind of going through this, like, sacred time in establishing your practice. And as you keep intently moving on, like, things do get revealed to you. And I don't mean to sound cryptic, like, and I don't know, everyone is different, but it does happen. And there's a part of it that is a little bit of faith, and not in the Christianity sense of what faith is. Faith meaning that we have these, say, call them supernatural experiences, right? And it is up to you to choose what you believe is true. And a lot of that for me is like really, and someone asked you in the live earlier, right? Like, what is anxiety versus what is my intuition? And that's like a great question. And for me, it's just like, I can feel the difference. And if something is fear-based, I mean, I do need to check in, like, is there something I need to be afraid of right now? Most times it's no. And then if I'm having those kind of fear-based thoughts, and it's usually anxiety-based. Intuition, it feels different. And that, it just takes like practice, or just intently engaging with it, right? Like, and so when you do have these experiences, of course, you have this community, right? I mean, to kind of validate, to support, and like hold space for the experience. But it's a faith, right? It's like, do you believe that is or isn't? Because real is like a funny word when you're a witch, with all these like experiences that we have, which, I don't want to engage with the world any other way, than, as a mystic. Yeah, but I just want to say it, like, I just think it's interesting. And that's why sometimes too, like, words are really hard, because we need like this common language to speak, but like all these words are like sometimes heavily conditioned of like what, like the word real, I think, is one of them. So I just wanted to add that to the conversation. Thank you. I'm not, Renee, you might be next, but I'm driving, so I don't want to look too hard.
So I was just gonna say, I thought the sacred space I was in last night was really fantastic. And so one of the things I've been working on is just feeling things in my body, because it's something I've like avoided, now I know how important it is. But when we were doing the meditation, we've all seen those movies where there's like the laser grid that'll like move on, like scan someone, like in a sci-fi movie. I actually, like, as we were like moving down the body, when it got to like the top of my thighs, I could feel like a little electric ripple, like, that like moved down to my feet during the meditation. And I was like, it's happening, like, it's magic. And then when it came back up, it did the same thing. It went up my legs to like my upper thighs, totally skipped my torso, and then just did like my face and the top of my head. Why I don't know why my torso got skipped, but it was just kind of interesting. But it is whenever I feel like something magical is happening, it's so exciting. Like, and I feel like I need to say magic, like, because it, it's it's so fun. It's so fun. But yeah, but I think I mentioned this in another SASS, but um I was listening to another witch talk on like a podcast, and she was talking about like when people say magic is all in your head. She's like, yeah, it is all in my head, because um just the way we might be experiencing something totally different than, everybody else. I know that sounded silly, but anyway, I just wanted to say, yeah, and I think we had a really good sacred space last night too. And just the last kind of week has been really inspirational. So I don't see anyone has their hand raised, but I'm gonna go off.
We are open to more weigh-ins or change in subject if anybody wants to chime in.
I just have one more. I'll just keep talking. So to like, I'm a space filler sometimes, but anyhow, I think it was during the live this morning. I popped in and like Jemry was talking about her relationship with her body. And like this whole experience is like multifaceted, right? Because like there are times where we need to support our physical bodies. There are times where we need to support our mental health. And like sometimes we have like I have found in my experience that sometimes I've needed to support those things first to trust myself. And so, that there was a decade of my life that was dedicated, primarily to my mental health with like a side of divination and tarot and stuff like that. But it was like, and then that was just my process, and it just helped with like that, the trusting of, when I have certain thoughts come up. I mean, I'm a witch, clairaudience, and a bunch of other things. I also have like anxiety and a little bit of OCD tendencies, and I have intrusive thoughts. And so like, that's all part of me. Right. And so it's just like, I think what the difference is, and again, like I've been working on, I've been engaging with it for like many years and decades. And it's just kind of like, I kind of identify, when it comes up at this point, I'm just able to like identify it, be like, oh, like this, that's what this is. And sometimes I recognize it, and the way I engage with it is like either kind of a transmutation thing, or I just feel more neutral about things. Does that happen to me all the time? No, like, because I'm human, we're having a human experience, and I feel like it's not a linear experience, and then allowing like the grace, because we are humans, and like so many like there's so much like sensory wise, relationship wise, that, and then the spiritual side of it, the mystical side of it, that we engage with like every moment of the day, right? Like it's pretty like awesome and fascinating when you think about it. And I don't know, I think again, I just keep going back to that, like I do now. When I first started Bright and Dark, I was way more impatient about things, and I just wanted, like all of you, I would ask Jen Marie like to tell me what the hell was going on, what am I doing? Just tell me the answers. And years before that, I asked my tarot cards like these questions, like these greater mysteries of life. And now I understand that it's more about the experience than anything else. And so at the moment, that's kind of what I'm going with. Thank you. I saw some stuff in the chat. Oh, does someone want to read the definition of real? Thanks, Petra, for posting that.
Yeah, there's an awful lot to that definition, so I'm not sure exactly what to share because it's pretty long.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks for looking at it. How's anyone else feeling about this conversation? We love your random thoughts, so don't hesitate to share.
You know, something came up for me, and it's just that I think that to really appreciate like magic and the realness we feel, you kind of have to not care what anybody else thinks, you know? For I think if you yourself know that it feels real, I don't know what I'm saying, Maria.
Yeah, I feel like that was like jiving what I was kind of saying, kind of about like faith.
Yeah, like I was like
Yeah.
I can totally feel the feeling, but I can't really explain it. And I think there is also like there's times when you know you're experiencing something magical, and you can definitely and it does feel different, but I couldn't say like what those feelings are that make it feel different.
Right. Yeah, it's like I mean I get that. Like for me, when I'm downloading messages either from me, from like my higher self, or the part of my soul that isn't fully embodied in this incarnation, or from my guides, I hear it in a tone. Okay, I can't just really describe that to you. It's a lower tone, like a voice, because that's kind of like how I feel like I talk too. So it's like comforting, and I like sensory wise, it's comfortable for me. So it's like, yeah, like, so I know when I hear messages, it's like a little bit of hearing and a little bit of feeling that I recognize that, like, oh, that's like kind of messaging coming through. And it's different from the way I experience anxiety. And so, but yeah, like that's kind of hard to explain, you know, sometimes. So I totally resonate with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like
I
oh, sorry, Maria.
was explaining as much as word I have. There's other part of it that I can't explain with words, so that's where it's hard. Yeah. If that makes sense. Sorry, Renee, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say my phone was glitching, so I didn't catch what you said there. It's been lagging a little bit, but I was also just gonna say one of my favorite things is it seems like when you're kind of tapped in, I'll go through these phases where like there's synchronicities are so like they happen so much all the time that you just feel like you're just rolling in like this ocean of synchronicities and magic, and just kind of back to like something I was thinking about earlier, I think when we were talking about, oh my gosh, my brain, I'm sorry you guys, but yeah, I think it's interesting, like it seems like when things like for me personally, things don't, like, it seems like a pile on, you know, like a lot of stuff happens at once and then nothing for a while and then a lot of stuff happens at once. It's almost like writer's block, you know, like there's sometimes there's just a lot of cool stuff happening and synchronicities um and then it's kind of the same feeling. I don't know if anyone's had writer's block or like artist block, and then there's like times when it's just like a desert and there's just nothing. um and I know it's going to come back when it does, and it usually does in full force, but I don't even know what I'm trying to say, you guys. I didn't sleep last night. But Petra.
Right. Can you guys see me? I'm like, can I see me? What is going on? There we are. I was like, what's happening? Sorry, I'm like doing a hair mask. I was like in the bath for most of this because I didn't sleep very much either. I'm in the midst of like kind of processing a pattern that just unfolded in the past 24 hours in real time. And I'm just like, ugh. And I'm on my period. So it's like one of those things where you're like, oh, cool. I get to see the ways that like I emotionally neglect myself. And so this is my part of the thing to heal. Been like cutting out people who like don't have space for my emotional needs. And now I'm like, oh, well, like I can't cut myself out. So I actually have to like learn. Anyway, so that's where I'm at. But listening to everything, I just had a few thoughts, but I was like in the tub and I was like, I feel like this will be weird with the splish bashing. So I will wait until I have conditioner on my hair and can sit at my desk in my towel. But one of the things that I wanted to say, I think Karen, initially when you were talking about, I missed your first kind of like thing about your initial question, but kind of what from other people's shares, I was like, oh, I think I'm getting like a feel for what you were looking for. And the piece that I just wanted to contribute is something from somatics from Peter Levine, who's kind of like in Western culture kind of touted as like the father of somatics and kind of like complex trauma recovery type stuff, reconnecting with your body. He wrote in an unspoken voice and Waking the Tiger. And if you Google him or like look at his YouTube videos, you'll like get an understanding. This man has the most like beautiful, gentle energy. But something I learned from him I think it was in a YouTube clip, and I couldn't find it exactly. I was like looking for resources for like quotes or something like that, and everything was just very technical, jargony. I'm like, I'm just gonna like blurb this, and when I find the YouTube video, I'll post it in the app sometime. Be like, here, there it is. He was talking about like if you ask someone who's experienced trauma, like if they feel safe, they'll often be like no, like immediately they'll be like no. But if you say like if you're about to do something with them or you're about to ask something or ask them and you ask about relative safety, basically saying like, does that feel safe enough? Most times people will be like, yeah, there's enough safety here for me to try that. There's enough safety here for me to get curious with that or to whatever. Like I'm co-regulating with you and you're asking me a question. I'm like, whatever. But if you ask someone a definitive, because our bodies have been in such a prolonged and like continuous like state sometimes of like unsafety, that like that unsafety is just like pervasive, is that if you ask like the ultimate like yes or no, are you safe or not? The answer is just like your body's like, no, never. What are you talking about? What is safety? That's, I don't know, nonsense. But if you ask if like, does this feel safe enough? Or like, is this safe enough for you? What would you need for this to be safe enough? Like if you ask for like, because there's a threshold for safety, that often the answer is like, yeah, I think so. Or like, it could be if I had this, like they're that kind of turning the question a bit and like tilting it can help provide space for something. So I just felt like that was important to share, because sometimes I think our society is very good at the dichotomy of like safety versus unsafety, like this thing against this thing, this kind of like very contentious, like the battling of things, which is just that I was talking to my friend about this actually a little while ago, about like that paradigm that we get given where everything is like it is this thing or it is this thing, and like it's always a binary. But getting curious about like what helps me feel safe enough to do the things, or what makes me feel safe enough to move forward, or like what would feeling safe enough look or feel like, or what could support me in that. Like just kind of reframing the questions and giving yourself some space to get curious with whatever comes up. And if that doesn't feel safe to do alone, like finding safe people, like safe enough people to do that with, like whether that's on the app or whatever. Like we all need different types of co-regulation, boring other people's nervous systems when we're like, this is a big scary question. I need another human who isn't like scared of my big scary question, like because it's not their big scary question, right? So I just wanted to validate and kind of like share that. And then well, I shared the definition of real thing, but I was like getting my towel on. I was like, I don't know how to. And Stephanie was like, there's so many there. I'm like, yes, that is exactly it. And that was part of what I was really excited about. When I see like a word and it's like there's not one clear definition, I get really excited because I think that it communicates that extra layer of like nuance. Like, look, even in the like academic world, there is not one singular set definition of real. So like even in this same dichotomy of like what is real and what is unreal, you know, that binary, there isn't a set definition of real. Is it like, are we talking about real under economics, or real under philosophy, or real under like science, or you know, whatnot? And I just thought that was really cool because I think that it reminds us that like language is a tool. It's descriptive. It describes things. It is not prescriptive. It doesn't tell us who we are. It just gives us a way. Like when you describe like a scene to someone, like, right, like I can describe my what's outside my window right now, and you can imagine it, but that doesn't mean that you're sitting on my back porch with me. Like that experience is different. And so I think that what I wanted to say with that is to remember that, like, yes, language is important. Also, like, English is a colonizing language, and so it has stolen from cultures for hundreds of years, and hundreds upon hundreds of years. And that means that it doesn't really know who it is, right? Like, as a language, English is kind of like the bastard son of someone. It's kind of lost. And so sometimes we're trying to use a language that isn't really grounded or rooted in anything. And that's why, like, you know, you can have, like, even under the definition of real, one of those things is, like, in Spanish, it means a coin, like $100 real, and or whatnot. And so I think that I always like looking at things like that to kind of give myself more space to be like, wait, like, this binary, this thing that I'm trying to be forced into figuring out isn't really as hard and fast as anybody thinks it is. Like, it's really actually quite flimsy and malleable. And so maybe that means that I don't have to, like, figure it all out now, or I'm not fucking it all up because I don't know this or know that or have that all figured out, because, like, nobody does, because the language itself doesn't even know. Does that make any sense to anyone? I felt like that was important to share. And I also wanted to just say, I don't know what the heck is going on with the astrology, but I'm currently getting thrashed. So if anybody wants to, like, give me, like, a little energetic hug, I would take that, because I'm in it up to my eyeballs with a little bit of shadow work right now. And it's so funny. Not like funny, haha, funny, like, oh fuck. That when you're, like, have to face the things, and how I always find, I don't know, I'm so much more practiced. I'm so much more almost even comfortable dealing with things when they're actually shit. It is really hard for me when I'm sitting in front of disconfirming experiences in relationships and friendships and other things with other people. And I'm like, I think that you're actually a safe person, and my nervous system now wants to run away because of all the trauma of intimacy and the emotional neglect in my childhood and in my life and things like that. So I am sitting in that space and I am feeling like a peeled grape, and I'm doing the thing, and I'm really fucking proud of myself. But like, I don't want to. Like, there's not I left a voice message for someone this morning that was really vulnerable, and it was like, I almost threw up afterwards. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this at all. And that is why I'm here telling all of you, because I feel like I'm so certain that I am not alone in that at all. And I'm also so certain that, like, you know, we sit in these, we have a lot of space for one another, but I'm also sometimes like, I feel like there are more new people who haven't seen me like scream crying on Zoom. So I'm like, hey, guess what? I know that I'm like the nerd and like the info drop all these things about stuff, but like, I'm also in this work with all of you too and fucking it up just the same. Just like a person. We're all human. And I just always feel like that humanity piece is something that I really love about this space, that we all like can kind of just show up as ourselves and like messy and gloriously human, and like whatever like works out in the wash. And I just love that so much. So I wanted to like take that opportunity and be like, I'm gonna be vulnerable too, and be like, I'm doing a thing and it's hard and it sucks. And also I'm proud of myself. And that moment of surprise when you're like, oh, this is good, and that's why it's hard. And that, oh fuck moment is just like, man, the trickster energy in that is just so palpable too. I feel like Jen Marie will totally understand this. It's just like, you're like, shit. F. I can like feel my guides being like, we love you. Also, like, hilarious. I'm like, thanks, guys. Thanks so much. So I'm going to hand it over to whoever's next. I don't know who that is. So, but thanks for listening, everybody. I appreciate you all so much.
Maria, you're next. You can go ahead.
Thank you. I just had something real quick, and Jen Lee, I saw your hand up, so I don't know if you still want to go, but I'll pass it to you when I'm done. Just popped up, you know, in my brain bubble too, is that another one of those words like real is normal. And so I say this knowing that I don't really think anything is like, I don't think there's a definition for normal, but I guess I'm going to use it to, because I feel like you'll understand what I'm saying. So, when we are doing new things, it can be scary and we can feel fear, and our body's like, what are you doing? We've never done this before. Like, how do we know this is safe? Right. And that's an experience that a lot of us have. And it's, I would say, like a normal part of like this process that, again, like only you know how much like support you need at any given time. But, you know, like when you're trying something new, even like when you're trying a different strategy, it seems like our human systems are wired. And I think that the ego plays into that, of being like, we haven't done this before. We don't have enough data. How do we know? And like, and so the way to get more data is to like do the thing. And that's why sometimes we say like, do it scared. Sometimes, you know, and so that you can kind of build on that experience. But I just wanted to say that, yeah, like a lot does come up, and, you know, we end up kind of going into these kind of catalysts and kind of dark nights of the soul, like what people describe as awakenings and things like that. And that's like, yeah, like that's amazing and can be scary, and it can be like hard, you know, it can be, it's like so multifaceted and multi-layered. And is it, in my experience, like, is it worth it? Like, yes. You know, for me, like it has been, but it's not always like, right. It's not always the sunshine and rainbows. And we've talked about to like the in another SASS, like kind of the whole like love and light type of situation, like, right, it's not always sunshine. And I think it seems that that's kind of part of this like process when you're going through kind of an awakening and deepening that connection. That's all. Leave it there. I'm gonna pop off too in a few minutes, so thank you, everyone. I'm actually in Salem. I'm meeting Abby, for those of you that know Abby. So, bye.
We have just about a half an hour left, so it's open to anybody who might want to weigh in on what we've been talking about. We have room for another topic. As a mod, I am perfectly comfortable with longer, awkward silences because I feel like there's probably somebody a little trepidatious who wants to bring something up, who might need that awkward silence to do that. So I'm going to mute myself, and anybody is welcome to weigh in or bring a new topic. Maria, is your hand still up, or do you want to add in again? No? Okay. Go ahead, Petra.
I just did want to share one cool thing because I feel like this was an epiphany moment with me yesterday. It was like the Instagram reel where someone said basically like, you don't share your feelings with other people for like the outcome of like how they will receive them. You share them to build trust with yourself that you have your own back. And it kind of like punched me in the gut. Honestly, I was like, what the, how dare you? I was like, the universe was like, I am not messing around. We are like just gonna be really honest. And that's something that I really struggle with sometimes is like, this space is obviously very safe to share things. People are very receptive, but when I don't know if the other person even cares, I'm like, do I say anything? Like, what happens if I share and then they don't care? Is this just going to be like it was when I was little? Is this going to be so bad? Like, you know, that kind of like whirlwind. And that Rio just kind of set off this like cascade of sitting with things and then being with the, you know, younger parts of me that were like, but like, what if this person leaves? You know, what if we tell them the truth about how we feel, and what if they leave? And I had this moment this morning when I did the brave thing and left the voice note and said the things. I was just like, I'm starting this discussion, whatever. Sitting with those parts of myself, like crying and holding them, like holding my body and like comforting them and being like they might leave, like not denying the thing, like that is a total possibility. Like you might tell somebody how you really feel about something and you might scare the shit out of them and they might run away. But what I said to myself, and I think it was kind of like higher selfish, you know, moment, was like, but I'm not going to leave you. And by telling people how we really feel, we don't leave ourselves. Like, we don't sacrifice what we need and who we are to be connected to somebody who doesn't have the capacity for that. And the way to safety is to weed those people out, is to be as, to, you know, and this comes with a caveat of like, I wouldn't recommend doing this all off the hop. This has kind of been a titrated process for me over time of like, I have slowly been losing people. I don't think if I lost everybody all at once, I would be okay at all. Because also, as you lose people who don't have capacity for you and don't have space for you, the universe has a really lovely way of bringing people who do in, because you're like being like, no, I don't want the thing that doesn't fit. I would like things that fit. Like I fit them and they fit me, and we want to like fit each other and we want to belong. And I think this community does a really beautiful job of that. And so that felt important to share, of being like, you know, if anyone else is out there kind of struggling or like has that theme of like, well, I'll just like keep quiet. I'll just like, I won't say the thing. I won't be difficult. I'll just be easy. Instagram again, like the universe loves to use algorithms to just like kind of like kick me in the butt. Was like there's a bunch of memes about like, you know, from Tumblr a while ago of being like, I don't love you because you're easy. I love you because I love you. Like that when people really do love you, it's not because you made yourself so small and palatable and like of no inconvenience to them. Like if I think about everybody that I love, like if I'm actually serious about it, they've inconvenienced me greatly. And I love them, like and it's not an actual inconvenience, right? It doesn't feel like an inconvenience. It feels like a privilege to be there for people. And so I think sometimes I know that I do this, that I deny people the privilege of holding space for me because I was taught that I was supposed to be this, like, as a parentified child, that I'm just supposed to do all the doing and then have no needs and be a nothing. And I just want to, like, if there's anybody else out there that feels like they have to be a nothing, just know that there are so many people that want your something, and you're too much, like very, very deeply. And this space is definitely one of those places where, like, full on, I have scream cried in this space before and been held and been honored and had my anger like validated. And I don't think that we do that every week. I don't know. I think, you know, that's maybe more of a sacred space thing sometimes, but like that also, like, we're doing this thing in community together, and that matters. And yeah, that just felt important to share. Okay, I am done. Thanks.
I love that, Petra. Thank you for sharing it, because I have to have a conversation later today. Not one to make myself vulnerable, but to convey some information for somebody else who is vulnerable, who's not able to do so. Ugh. And I am so much fear and so much dread. But you reminded me of, I have a client who's an author, and she wrote a book called The Too Much Unicorn. It's a child's book, and it is the best. I highly recommend that you know, anybody who might be interested in that would check that out, because yeah, The Too Much Unicorn by Julie Costin is amazing. So I'll put it in the chat.
Fun fact, unicorns have been my favorite. I mean, let's be clear, the last of the unicorns movies like hit every millennial, especially a fan person, like so hard. So like that, but that's really, really awesome. Thank you, Stephanie. I really appreciate that.
Does anybody want to do a dream analysis for me?
Yeah, we love those. Go ahead.
Okay. So the night before last, I had this dream, and I mean, a whole bunch of stuff happened, but the part that's relevant to this, that I'm trying to like figure out the symbolism, was that I had something like stuck in the back of my throat. And and it was like something gross. Like, so I got like some forceps and I pulled it out, and it was an eyeball. And it was not the same, like it was an eyeball, but it wasn't the same color as my eye. It was like a hazel color, and I have blue eyes, right? And I was kind of carrying this eyeball around, and then I put it in my pocket, but later on in the dream, I was like vomiting eyeballs. Like I could not stop vomiting eyeballs. And to me, I mean, to me, like it's pretty on the nose symbolism where it's like, obviously, I should be looking at something and paying attention to something that I'm not paying attention to. And I'm just going to keep getting eyeballs until I pay attention to it. But I don't know. I'm trying to figure out, I'm kind of working on my own catalog of my own personal dream symbolism. And I'm kind of trying to figure out what eyeballs mean. And I love saying the word eyeball. I say it all the time. But yeah, if anybody else has ideas of what because I think we've talked about here before too, like dream dictionaries, like I think they're kind of not applicable and a lot, like unless they're kind of like universal symbols, like a lot of times I think dream dictionaries get that stuff wrong. And I was also gonna say um I am having a stupid day, and I say stupid things on here all the time. And just anybody that is reluctant to speak, like I started off saying stupid things, I still say stupid things, and ask questions all the time. And it is a safe space to do that. So don't be afraid. I'm gonna mute.
Renee, I see that Bridget mentioned that eyeballs are truth and that your throat is speaking your truth. So vomiting eyeballs maybe is a fear to do so. And I kind of had that same like inclination, like maybe you were holding back from using your voice to bring something to light, into vision, or something was holding you back in that respect. And it started with one, but then grew to many more as you begin to throw it up because it amplifies the longer maybe you're not speaking that truth to something. I don't know if that resonates at all because it's a wild guess, and and I'm
No,
piggybacking off of what Bridget said in the comments.
yeah, no, it totally makes sense because it seems like, well, you had this one eye and you had a chance to use it or figure it out and you didn't. So now you're just gonna like not be able to stop puking them up until you. But here's the other interesting part about it is none of the eyes look like they were my eyes, and none of them were the same color as my eyes. And I think that's like kind of a key part of it. And um usually what happens with my dream symbolism too is even if I can't figure it out, I just kind of, keep it in the archive and roll it around a little bit. And then eventually, maybe from another dream or whatever, like it'll start to click together. But I mean, if dream symbolism is something that other people are interested in, um, like there's so much cool stuff, like I love hearing other people's dreams too. If anybody has one they want to toss out there. I mean, that wasn't even a dream. That was like a dream like sliver, but yeah, I love unpacking dreams.
Go ahead, Petra.
I was just like looking. I know you're like dream symbolism can mean so many things, but I always like using Google just because like it has so many different pieces. And so you can kind of like I will always like I'll use Google, not like a strict dream dictionary because Because like I said, I feel like the universe uses algorithms sometimes to be like, here's the thing. And it's just like whatever definition hits, and like I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, that. And then I do it more like intuitively, instinctually. So I just wanted to like say that, like, if that feels good, of kind of like breaking the dream into bits and being like, okay, like what do eyeballs mean in like in a dream? What does having something stuck in my throat mean? What does like vomiting mean? Like those kinds of bits and pieces. But the other piece that I wanted to add that feels like kind of like niche, I guess, is that that like the somatic experience of like feeling like you're gonna vomit or like being nauseated or throwing up is often related to like disgust and shame, like toxic shame. So there's two types of shame in like the kind of somatic world. There's healthy shame, which is essentially like what a child feels when their parent is like, don't touch the hot stove, and they touch the hot stove, or like they get yelled at for doing something that is dangerous. And then the parent comes and comforts them. And it's like, you have that healthy shame of like, here's the connection, but like you were kind of scared and it was like, that thing is dangerous. Like that shame that keeps us from doing stuff that will hurt us. Right. Which is an interesting reframe, because I think that our society says that all shame is bad. And it's like some shame is actually important and is part of social learning, as social beings, that we need it so that we don't just like, climb ladders when we're 2 and do things and touch hot stoves and do dangerous things. But there's also toxic shame, which is like in that same scenario, like if a child is yelled at and then there is no comfort, there is no connection, and then they're criticized or like, how could you do that, you're so stupid, blah blah blah, blah, like all of the like abuse that like that is shaming. And so I remember learning in somatics, when we talked about it, I think last year or the year before that, I have twice a year I have a trauma group that meets and for 4 months, and then there's a break in the summer and a little break in the fall. But and I remember them talking about like sometimes when you're processing toxic shame, you can get this like, ooh, like this like kind of prolonged sense of nausea. Like obviously go to your doctor, go to get looked at, like checked out, those kinds of things to make sure there's nothing. But sometimes that when you're doing trauma work, that stuff can just kind of come up. And so there's a piece of that when you were talking, I was like, I wonder how that lends itself to like the dream. And I think that that's a very personal thing. So I'm not being like, hey, Renee, bare your soul to us and dig into that right in front of everybody. But I'm like, that might be something to sit with, of being like, are there ways in which like, I don't know, eyeballs, my also is like, do you feel like people were watching you a lot when you were a kid or something like that? Is there something where you felt surveilled, or you felt like, like you couldn't be yourself because everybody was paying attention to you? I don't know, or not, I'm not paying attention to you. There's just like questions. I'm like, and I think that that's the thing with dreams, is like a lot kind of persistent curiosity, and to be willing to be like, what do I think about that? Or like, how does that sit? Because your body knows what the dream means. It knows what it's like trying to tell you. And it also sometimes comes out in like layers too, where it's like you might get a piece of an epiphany here and then something later, and you're like, oh, that's what that meant. Okay. So I just wanted to say that. Hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you, Petra. Yes, always very helpful. Yeah, it's a lot for me to unpack, but yeah, I love keeping track of my dreams. And one thing I dream about all the time too are like animals that don't exist, and like birds that don't exist that are very colorful. And so someday I it's like my goal to like, paint all of the imaginary dream creatures, and some that show up all the time. And if it, I have one more, like, if anybody wants, I have what I call dream themes, which is they're not a reoccurring dream, but they're reoccurring themes that happen all the time. And one that I've had for as long as I can remember is I'll be doing something and I'll find like a blue cat, and the cat will be like cerulean sky blue, just this beautiful cat. And I'll be so excited about it, and I'll be talking to other people, and I'll be like, isn't this the most magical, like wonderful thing you've ever seen? And people are like, it's just a cat. And but the blue cats are always showing up in my dreams, and they have forever. And they look different sometimes, but they always have like blue fur of some kind or blue stripes. And I'm always way excited about the blue cats. And and people around me are just like, it's a cat, it's just a cat. And I don't know if that also has something to do with how much I love animals, and like sometimes people don't understand like how much I love my dog, and they'll be like, well, it's a dog, and they don't get it, you know. um anyway, that's another one of my ongoing dream themes. Blue cat dream guide, Morgana. Yeah, I mean, I've yeah, I can't really figure out what is going on with the blue cats. But yeah, if anybody, you know, and totally change the subject, I'm just throwing stuff out there. I mean, Bridget, I'm just going to read some stuff from the chat, not the cat, the chat. So like Morgana said, is a dream blue cat, dream guide. And Bridget said, the blue cat be your fuller self. I've sometimes thought about it as like maybe I can see this, I can see like I have another term I like. It's called beautiful ugly, which is that I like things that are like not conventionally beautiful. Um and I call it beautiful ugly. And I've with the cats, I do kind of have a feeling like um it's something so magical and interesting, and I just can't believe nobody else is interested in it, or that they're like dismissive of it. um yeah, it's interesting. But anybody else have any major crazy dream themes that pop up for them all the time? I fly all the time too. I'm flying all over all the time. And when I whenever I have like a lucid moment in those dreams when I'm flying, and I usually do, I'm always like looking down, and I can see every detail of everything. I can see like every branch of a tree, you know, from these great heights. And I always have like a slight lucid moment where I say to myself, like, I cannot believe my brain can do this. I cannot believe my brain can like populate this landscape so perfectly with all of these details. And yeah, you guys, I'm having the stupidest day. I'm not kidding. Like my brain is not working. But anyway, like I'm just silence is making me uncomfortable, and that's why I'm just blathering today. So I'm gonna mute myself now for good.
We have about 6 more minutes if anybody wants to weigh in on anything or bring up something else, or we can just hang out together in awkward, very awkward silence. Well, here, let me ask this. This is a quick 5 minute little topic. As we head to the autumn equinox, and we're starting to prepare to move inside, and as you can tell here, it's getting dark here already. Um, what will you be doing to prepare for the inward turn, for the dark times? I'm crocheting warm things and building fire pits. What will you?
Rich, my husband, turned on the 24-hour burning fireplace log on YouTube. The when I came down this morning, and it's like it does make the house feel cozier, so we have that on in the background quite a bit.
What do people do that don't have such wild, like where I live, I'm in upstate New York. Like, we have very obvious seasonal changes. Um, and it looks like fall at our autumn equinox, but I'm curious as to what people do who have like a consistent weather pattern, like how that feels.
Yeah, I have no idea because I live in like weather extremes, and even our seasons are not, some of our seasons don't really even see them like seasons because they'll be like 4 days or like 2 weeks. They'll be like shortened. So yeah, I always, just being from Alaska too, I don't think I've ever spent a Christmas without snow. And I just yeah, it's interesting to think ah, okay, bye.
Bridget mentions being in Southern California, they switch their iced tea to pumpkin spice chai. It's funny, I switch my teas according to the seasons as well. I'm coming off of drinking a lot of like a peach black tea in the afternoon, moving more to like, I'm doing the, right now I've got the magic hour coconut chai in my cup. It's so good.
I've been trying to get a refill of the Magic Hour raspberry Earl Grey tea forever. It's so good. But yes, I think we've all waxed poetically on how much we love Magic Hour tea. So if anybody hasn't heard us do this before, like, it is absolutely the best.
Well, it's 3:59 and I am feeling closure. So if that's okay with everybody, we can say our goodbyes a minute early. But I hope everybody has a lovely rest of their day or evening wherever you are.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thanks for modding for us.